Today is my nemesis adventure. A nemesis adventure is an adventure you try a number of times and seem to get hung up short of reaching your goal. Well, this adventure is an adventure with trails. It's not a mountain adventure. It's not a wilderness adventure. It's just trails. It's Mud Springs Loop at the Sawmill Trailhead off of Lee Canyon Road, just short of the recreation area. We're about at 7,000 feet. And Mud Springs Loop is a 15-mile loop, and it's trails the whole way. So what makes it so difficult? I've tried it 2 times already and ended up in not completing the loop, but making other discoveries. Well, what makes it difficult is that at least last time I tried it, which was about 5 years ago, all the trails were unmarked. And so I ended up going off on tangents on all these little rabbit trails and unpaved roads and did not stay on the loop. So today, what I'm going to try to do is actually complete the 15-mile Mud Springs Loop. Why is it hard to stay on the trails? Because you're in the forest and you're in kind of a gully area. You can't see reference points around you, at least most of the time. There are a few moments where we'll rise up into some kind of a viewpoint, but for the most part, you're just in this forest, in the rabbit trails, in a gully, no reference. I'm bringing GPS this time, and we'll see if that can help me get all the way around this 15-mile loop. One great advantage of this loop is that you're in an area where you can see a whole lot of additional adventures. For example, there is Mummy's nose, and Mummy's head is to the right, and then you got Mummy Mountain beyond. A lot of adventures in that area. And then over in this direction, there's an awesome ridge that leads up to Black Rock Sister, North Sister, and South Sister. There's also a connection to Macks Peak. So there are a lot of different adventures that one could take from this area, and that's why I want to see if we can master Mud Springs Loop so that we can look at some of these other destinations and plan some future wilderness adventures. So here we go, Mud Springs Loop, the Nemesis Trail. So here we are starting at the trailhead. I will try to record all the major turning points so that if you end up on this loop, you will not get lost. And in addition, I'll do the other loops in the area. There's a pine tree loop, a rocky canyon loop, I believe, and a few others. And so there's a lot here. Anyway, here's the start of the trail. So look at this beautiful trail. Don't let it fool you. It's going to get evil soon. I like to watch for landmarks along the way, not only to keep myself on track, but also to look at other places to explore from this area. And there again is a reference point, Mummy's Head area. And here is a ridge that we are skirting, and I believe we passed through an opening in that ridge at some point. Continuing on the trail, no turns so far, but I believe we stay on the green trail. Now, if you've ever done Mud Springs Trail, there's probably people laughing at me at this point because maybe you found it very easy. This is my nemesis trail. Okay, a little less than a mile in, here is the first split, and it's poorly marked. Remember, I said I was going to stay to the green trail. Well, here's a sign that says to the Left is the red trail. To the right is the yellow trail. And then someone has put a little green tape on the trail sign. Probably wanted to say, okay, where's the green trail? And now I look over on this tree here, and guess what? There is a little tape that says green. So let's imagine this is the green trail. This is the Mud Springs Loop Trail. I'll check with GPS in a moment and verify. But yeah, this is an example. You could head off on the wrong trail, and if somebody hadn't put the green tape on the tree and on the trail sign here, you would have no idea where the green trail is. I just checked GPS, and actually I need to be on the red trail. So far I haven't made a wrong turn, but yeah, I need to head up in this direction, and all the signs for the green trail that I was talking about, the little ribbons, forget that. So heading up the red trail. Distinctive turn in the trail. Verified I am on track, and at this point it was the red trail. I think the green trail shows up later, but anyway, yeah, we're on track and continuing along the Mud Springs Loop. And by the way, you can see that there are no reference points that you can see. A lot of beautiful pinyon pines and junipers. Wow, look at this juniper. Huge. Anyway, yeah, it's a beautiful area. Don't get me wrong, but it's just hard to see where you're going. I know the ridge that we're skirting is just south of us. We're at the very edge of it. So let's continue on. Not far beyond the last clip, here is one of those beautiful reference points that I mentioned. And you can see Mummy's head, the nose on the left, the forehead on the right. So every now and then you do get, and then there's Lee Canyon. No, that is Deer Creek Road. Yeah, Deer Creek Road over here. So yeah, you get some good reference points now and then, but for the most part, and often when there's a rabbit trail um, and there's a split off, you're in the forest and you can't see where you are. But yeah, this is truly beautiful. Okay, and what do you know? Now the green trail reappears. Instead of taking those green ribbons back a little further on the trail, yeah, I took the red trail, and then all of a sudden green reappears. Okay, now I'm getting a better idea based on GPS, and this is part of the Mud Springs Loop. This is the true loop. You can see this direction and this direction. If everything works out right, I'm going to emerge here. We'll see how that works. Um, but what I'm going to do is take the loop in a counterclockwise direction, which is this direction. So let's continue on this way and just see if we can stay on the loop. And the big test is going to be we actually see Mud Springs and we return on this trail to this very point. Continuing along, but here's a view in another direction. And there's Macks Peak. and then over to Mummy's Head, and then over in this direction is a ridge line that would lead up to Black Rock Sister and the Sisters. And this here is what I'll call the Mud Springs Gully. Actually, it might be Macks Canyon, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, so we need to, well, the loop goes around in a clockwise direction from where we're standing here. It goes around this whole area below us and then returns over not too far in this direction. So that's a good look at the entire loop. We'll get better reference a little later. Some more reference points in view now. As you can see, Mummy's Head to the right. Now we can see Angel Peak. And then over in this direction is Gas Peak. Very faint sheep range to the left, and we continue on the Mud Springs Loop Trail. Another look at the area below. We're going to circle this entire area. You can see Macks Peak on the left, and the valley heading up toward, through Highway 95 goes through that valley, heading up toward Reno. But anyway, yes, it's good to get an idea where you are and what the big picture is. And the big picture is we're circling this forested area between Macks Peak on the left and the valley below to the right. Okay, here we are at another turning point. You can see it's telling me the green trail is back the direction I just came from. Okay, well, that's fine. We don't know what green is yet as far as the signs go here. And then there's a brown trail that continues in this direction. That might be Pine Tree Loop. Oh yeah, here we go. Green trail heading down in this direction. You got to actually get on the trail before you know that, yes, this was a turn to continue on the green trail. And this is indeed Mud Springs Loop. So, yeah, according to GPS, and so maybe green is correct, which I thought from the beginning, but we'll see what the signs say along the way. So it's a left turn here. Okay, here's where a green trail heads down to the left. My GPS is not working because I don't have internet. So, yeah, I believe that you take a left here, continue on green. So I'm going to head down this hill and see if we're on track. It appears this is the right choice. The pine tree trail is, I believe, that red trail marked by red. You can see green is to the right here, and another indicator says green continues on in this direction. So according to the signs, it looks like Pine Tree Loop is red. Anyway, yeah, brown is in the direction I just came from, so go figure. If it's green, it should be green both directions. But anyway, yeah, let's continue on down this direction, see where we end up, and if we actually stay on the Mud Springs Loop Trail. I did try the red trail the last time about 3 or 4 years ago, and that led over to Pine Tree Loop. So I'm sticking with green. Okay, good news. Just got an update on my CalTopo app. And yeah, we are on course. We've got another 3 to 4 miles before we hit the next turn. So it's just continue on this trail till we hit the next series of junctions. There's a fork that goes like 3 different directions. So let's continue on the Mud Springs Trail. Here's a place you could go off track. Here we're crossing a wash, but fortunately notice the border of tree branches you see on either side now. What it's saying is the wash continues down that direction, but the trail heads up over this little rise and then continues off to the right. The only problem with this is that with a good flood, these borderline branches could disappear and you could head down the wash rather than head up this little rise and stay on the trail. The wash is much more broad and inviting. The rise looks like you're going off trail. So yeah, for now we know we head up the rise and then the trail angles to the right. This trail is really worthwhile. Every now and then you break out into an open area. You see the desert area below. And you're above it in the Ponderosa Pine and Juniper zone. So just to give you an idea where we are. But yeah, this is truly a beautiful trail. Worth the traveling. But yeah, you want to stay on track, because there are a lot of places you could turn and head off in another direction. Checking in again and look at the terrain around us. I believe we're still on path here, and my GPS has not been working at all. So all I know is that Macks Peak is over there, and we're still in that large valley we were looking at earlier. And I believe continuing on Mud Springs Loop, there has not been a significant turn to the right or the left. There have been a few washes that I've crossed that looked more established than the trail, but I believe I've remained on the trail, and here we're continuing onward. Well, I've got a couple miles with no sign that I'm on the right trail, meaning that there are no little green markers, but there have been no significant turns. There have been, like I mentioned, some gullies that cross the trail that look more inviting than the trail itself. And well, a good way to stay on track if GPS is not working, as I have right now. A good way to stay on track is to keep an eye on Macks Peak, and it should be pretty much to the left or west. And then there are the sisters, at least that's the north sister, and the ridge that leads North Sister, South Sister, and Black Rock Sister. and then Mummy's nose, Mummy's forehead and nose. So yeah, if you got off track here and you worst came to worst, you would just want to head back toward Mummy's nose, and eventually you'd hit Lee Canyon Road. So you want to aim for a bit to the left, about 10 degrees, 20 degrees left of Mummy's nose there, and you'd hit Lee Canyon Road about the right spot. This trail, as I've seen it on the map, circles around and there are lots of ridge lines to cross. Lots of ridge lines because the whole terrain has a drainage that heads down a number of gullies between the ridges. So yeah, up and down, up and down. But yeah, this trail will circle around, eventually heading to the base of Macks Peak before it turns back toward Mummy's nose. And we may have a few more ridges to cross before we begin to turn toward Macks Peak. So it's good to know the basic terrain. You don't know what GPS is going to do. So anyway, continuing along the Mud Springs Loop, and maybe the loop is marked so that if you take it in a clockwise direction, maybe you'll see more markers. I'm starting to look backwards to see if that's the case. Maybe it's not made for counterclockwise. I don't know. Maybe it's not marked at all, which is what I've been experiencing, but I believe I'm on course. I had mentioned a lot of ridges and gullies to cross. This is the deepest so far. This may be Macks Canyon. We don't know. But the trail continues over on that side. Before you get there, you got to switch back, dive down to the base of the canyon, and then up. And keeping Macks Peak in view, just to keep my frame of reference, because that's the only frame that I've got with that GPS. But it appears we are on track. So let's continue. Okay, this is the next ridge beyond that deep canyon we just looked at. What I'm going to do is zoom in on, you can see Macks Peak, the Sisters, and Mummy Mountain, then over to the Sheep Range and Gas Peak. So here's Macks Peak. Sisters. Mummy's nose and forehead. Canyon below, we just crossed it, and I think that might be Macks Canyon, not sure. Gas Peak. And the Sheep Range. So you can see the valley descending and this canyon descending. Eventually we've got to turn toward Macks Peak. So I think that turn, it should be another couple miles, but for now we're still heading down this direction, rounding this current ridge. Continuing along this trail, it's been a fairly good trail. A lot of places that you could lose it. I think somebody or some people have taken a electric bike or a dirt bike in places and made it hard to distinguish the trail. But anyway, what I believe we're looking at ahead here is North Sister on the right, Black Rock Sister on the left, and we need to circle around the left side of Black Rock Sister eventually. And over here, I believe we're looking at Macks Peak. Can't be absolutely certain, but that would be my guess at this point. So I know we need to make our big circuit before we get to Macks Peak. So we'll be skirting this side of the peak and then heading over toward the North Sister, Black Rock Sister, and be skirting the lower, this side of the edge of those two. So we are very close to where this trail should be making a dramatic turn toward Macks Peak. No signs whatsoever for the past 3 to 5 miles. You just have to be looking at the terrain and the reference points, as I've been pointing out, in order to know where you are, stay on course. Okay, onward. Okay, take a look at this intersection. It's very, very important. Now, you see a little cairn here? There's the trail from which I just emerged. And here's the road. And so on the map, it looks like a kind of a point where two paths come to meet. There's this road and this trail, and it continues up the canyon to the right, to the left. I'm going to take the road, and both of them are heading back toward our starting point. We are on the map. We've been on the map the whole time, even though we don't have GPS and we don't have any signs to tell us where we are. But this is the far point, about the 7-mile point or so on this 7.5-mile point on this Mud Springs loop. So now I'm going to take off up this road. Now you could go in this direction also. You'd have to look on a map to see where it leads, but look on the map on the linked page on LasVegasAreaTrails.com. So far we have been right on course, and it has been a beautiful area to wander through, but you're not going to meet anyone, and you're not going to see any trail signs. So, and you're not going to have GPS. so just study the map really well, study this video, and you should be okay. But yes, we are on the Mud Springs Loop, the far end of the loop, heading back now toward what I believe is North Sister. And we need to cross around the left side of North Sister, and then we should be hitting our starting point. So yeah, you can see South Sister and Black Rock Sister on either side of the tree in the center, and North Sister is hidden in this view. South Sister was to the right, Black Rock to the left. And then over those, the ridge that that passes through the sisters from the Black Rock to the South Sister, over that ridge is Lee Canyon Road. So it's always good to know where you are and reference points, and this adventure really proves that you really want to be on a clear day in a place like this, and you want to be prepared to navigate by the reference points that you can see, because you may not have GPS and you may not see any trail signs, which is my situation today. But we are on track. Well, we've done over half the loop. We're still on track, and we're on that road that heads back, but I think I've got another up to 1,000 feet to gain. We are in the beautiful Ponderosa Pine zone. This is looking ahead up the road. And there's a great Ponderosa below us. So like I said, about 1,000 feet to ascend before we start descending. That's a lot at this point, but still on Mud Springs Loop, perfectly on course the whole day. Okay, onward. Okay, this sign in the middle of nowhere. And a fence ahead. I hope that doesn't block this road that I'm on, because I need to get to the other side of that fence. Onward. Well, fortunately, it looks like you can just pull the fence open. Let's check it. Yes. Ah, good. I didn't want to have to climb over stuff. Okay. Continuing onward. Okay, now truly I've lost the trail, but it looks like something continues along this side of the fence, which I just crossed. Wow, look at that. Who knows why this fence is here? Maybe so people don't drive through. All I know is that Macks Peak is up ahead, and I need to take a left turn before Macks Peak, so I'm just gonna head through the wilderness. I see a little ribbon, a yellow ribbon. So maybe I don't need to watch for ribbons at this point. I don't know. But I do know that I am on course, and whatever Mud Springs Trail is, this is it at this point. There are a string of yellow ribbons. There's another one. So they seem to be in a string, and there is a faint trail that I'm on. Lost GPS again. I know Macks Peak is over in this direction, which means that I need to continue in this direction, following the yellow ribbons, and yeah, following them when they make sense, taking off in another direction when they don't. I can see why it's very easy. Yeah, here's another yellow ribbon. I can see why it's very easy to lose your way on the Mud Springs Loop Trail. This is definitely a difficult stretch. You just have to kind of go by gut sense, knowing that Macks Peak is to the right. There are some yellow ribbons. There's a faint evidence of a trail, and just put everything together and take your best guess to stay on track. And yes, I've lost GPS, so that's not helping, but maybe it'll come back and verify where I am. Okay, that was a very brief, sketchy point where everything disappeared along that fence line, but just stayed along the fence line. Looked to the yellow ribbons where we could find them, and now I'm on the semblance of a trail again. So yeah, the main thing that I know is that Macks Peak is over through the trees there. And I know I need to be on this side of Macks Peak and just staying, using all the knowledge and signs that you can see, the trail again appears. So let's continue onward and upward. Well, here's the trail, and there are fortunately abundant yellow ribbons along this stretch. Let's take a look at a couple of them. So yeah, we are on track. At this point, just follow the trail and the yellow ribbons, and we're on Mud Springs Loop. Okay, as I mentioned at the beginning, that now and then on this trail, you pop out into an open area and reference points come into view. And here we have Macks Peak up this way. And Black Rock Sister on the left, North Sister on the right. Trail that we've been on. Beautiful juniper. Trail we're continuing on, and yes, this is actually looking like a trail. There's still some yellow ribbons here. See if we can see one here. Very hard to see it. But we've got a regular trail now. So continuing along, and some beautiful spring blooms. It is the last week in May, really. A few days, it'll be June 1st. And speaking of yellow ribbons, here is one right here in front of us. Some of them are hidden, but as I said, we now have a distinct trail to follow. And I did have GPS for a while at that halfway point, whereas at that junction, and it showed that, yes, we were on track. And now I'm pretty certain we're still on track, even though I don't have GPS right now. Continuing along this nice little trail now, and I have good confidence that it is leading me in the right direction and that we are indeed on the Mud Springs Loop Trail. We'll only know when we emerge from the other side of the loop, but Macks Peak is way to the right. There's a ridge line to the left, and between the two, we are approaching about 5 miles away. We're approaching the end of the loop, if everything is according to what I imagine. So continuing onward. Continuing now along what has become a very nice trail. But just want to show you this awesome view of Macks Peak. There you have it. And the sisters, I think I swallowed a power bar wrong. Sorry. But there, I believe, is the south sister. Here's the trail we have been on. And here's the trail. We're continuing. So all is looking good. We're probably within about 5 miles of completing the loop. 15-mile loop. Continuing along the trail, but look at this view. I remember not long ago being at that hill down there. So we were all the way down there and circled around. And we have now skirted the lower edge of Macks Peak. Beautiful area here. There's a mountain mahogany. In the foreground, pinyon pines. And continuing along within maybe 4 or 5 miles of completing the loop. I believe we are getting ready to close the loop. It's narrowing out. There again is Mummy's Head. And you see a ridge in the foreground and a low point in that ridge. That is, I believe, the point we pass through and then descend to the Sawmill Trailhead area. And as far as the ridge line we took on the way, the other side of the loop, it's over there. So, yeah, closing the loop. I think I was on that ridge we're looking at in the foreground. So let's continue on and work our way up through the opening up here and then descend to the Sawmill Trail. Well, hallelujah, my first green trail sign in about 8 miles of no signs. Letting me know, now that I already know by this point, that we are indeed on Mud Springs Loop Trail. I guess there is another trail that's heading off in this direction. So this little sign is probably useful. Well, this must be Mud Springs Loop Revenge, because it sent me down a gully that just seemed like it's going the wrong direction. So now I'm heading up in this direction. You see, I think that might be the North Sister over there. I need to get over the next ridge so I can see where I am. I was in a gully below. It just didn't look right. So I left the trail and am ascending to a place where I can see. I want to see Mummy Mountain. Once I see Mummy Mountain, then I'll know the route I need to take. So without GPS, yeah, I'm left to looking for landmarks, and that helps. North Sister on the left, South Sister on the right, and I'm heading over this next ridge because I want to see Mummy's Head. Okay, onward. Now, that is Mummy's Nose on the left, Mummy's Forehead on the right, And I need to be heading for a point right through this low point ahead. So yes, I got off track. I don't know what happened when the trail emptied out into a wash, sent me down the wash, but yeah, that was not where I wanted to be. So let's go ahead and use Mummy's Nose as a guide as we head across the wilderness for this last part of Mud Springs Loop. And we want to head for the left base of Mummy's Nose. So let's see what that does for us. Here we go. Okay, so now I find myself on Macks Canyon Road or Macks Camp Road. I know this is going to lead down to Lee Canyon Road. Then I take a left and head down to the Sawmill area. But wow, yeah, I got off course. I don't know how. But here we are on the Macks Canyon Road, and that's Macks Peak in that direction. This is Lee Canyon Road in this direction. So let's just take this down to Lee Canyon Road, head down to the Sawmill area, and call it a day. Okay, just came out Macks Canyon Road. That wasn't that far from where I hit it. There is Mummy's Nose and Forehead. Right in front of me is Lee Canyon Road. It's about a half mile down this road to the Sawmill Trailhead. So yeah, we're just about there. Little deviation, but it worked, and it's about the same timing.